the rhythm, catching every beat. Together we embrace the futures at our feet. The futures at our feet.
Well, welcome to another episode of the Edufuturists podcast. We are delighted to be joined by two people in one screen today. So we are very, very excited to be joined by Lucy and Jonathan Coy, and they will tell you a little bit about what they do in a moment. Steve, it's good to see you, my friend, and another episode that we've got of the podcast.
Yep, I'm really excited for this one. I think I get excited at the easiest whim, but this is one that started before Bet. We introduced and saw each other face to face. We talked about potential synergy and ultimately some shared passions and shared purpose in regards to just changing our focus to the future of education. I think leadership is often where it starts. There's leadership at all levels, but I think if we can help the leaders, give them space. So I'm really excited to delve into it. But Jonathan, Lucy, do you want to kind of introduce yourselves? Where did it all start? And how did we get here? How did you end up on the podcast?
Oh. Well, thank you for inviting us onto the podcast. We love what you do.
Yeah,
And,
we do.
In some ways, it's a very common theme of trying to get people together, connecting with each other, and that's basically what our passion is.
Yeah, that's why we were so delighted to be invited. So thank you so much. Shared passions, I suppose. But yeah, so I'm Lucy, and I was a school leader for 18 years. Jonathan and I are husband and wife. And we met.
That obvious, yes.
It's probably obvious. We met in teacher training college when we were 18, and we've been in teaching ever since. So 30 years of dedication towards education, and it's something we absolutely love. There's nothing that can take it away from us. We're so passionate about education. It's kept us going all this time. And I started as a primary school teacher. I did many year groups all the way through the primary phase, and then I ended up probably more in the infants reception, year 1, year 3, year 2 kind of age. And you
I did everything in
went
primary
on
school.
to be.
Yeah. So I did sports science as a degree, and then I was then nominated to be a PE coordinator straight away. And I did all the sports and everything in primary school in London. And we moved up to Norfolk about 20 odd years ago. And I worked in first schools, infant schools, primary schools, and worked through the ranks I've done most age groups. So a lot of the time was spent in year 6. And then quite a lot of time was spent in early years. So it's a broad balance of everything.
Yeah. And you were like IT, maths lead for the local authority.
Guess how that happened?
Yeah.
I could turn the computer on in those days.
It took all day, to be honest, but yeah.
I had a few complaints that my computer's not working.
Yeah.
What do you do? Have you plugged it in? Oh, yeah. You're the IT.
The BBC computer.
Can you turn it off and on again? That's the thing, right? Have you tried turning it off and on again? Yeah.
Yeah, so that was kind of so then you ended up being a school leader.
Yeah. And then I was a troubleshooter. I went around loads of schools in Suffolk and Norfolk, and they're all ones that are either been put into a category or close to being put into a category. And I'm helping them out to get to where they need to be and then move on to another school. Then I took a headship up, and then a couple of years ago I was a deputy CEO of an academy trust. So we ran this academy trust in Norfolk, and then COVID hit, and we decided we were getting so many reach out from school leaders of saying in crisis or needed help and things like that. We wanted to then explore how we could help them. And so we used the platform HeadteacherChat to do that. And yeah, that was 5 years ago.
At that time, I was, when we started HeadteacherChat on Twitter, I was a school leader. I was an acting head teacher in a school that had just gone through special measures. And there's a bit of a story. We could do a whole other podcast on that story, because it actually ended up in a book. It was in Dame Alison Peacock's second book. about challenge and assessment. And I basically wrote through the power of community on social media to Alison to say, my school's in crisis. I would really love to sort it out. I'd like to do what you did. Would that be okay? And Alison, bless her, thankfully she replied to me and said, you must go for it. You've got to try. And so I did. I was only volunteering as a senior leader at that point, and I had volunteered for many years as a senior leader. And thankfully, we got out of special measures in 10 months. And so Alison included me in her book, which was a real honour and a privilege. So that was our start to Head Teacher Chat. Here I am, acting head teacher in a school, quite scared, and Jonathan was troubleshooting, and we needed to know stuff. Like, where do you go? Where do you go to get that stuff? And I'm sure there's leaders out there listening to this thinking, yeah, actually, where do you go? Like, who do I ask? When there's a crisis, who can I turn to? If I need to know how to do something, how do I ask that without looking stupid? So we were those people. We were those leaders feeling it and breathing it and understanding it. And we put messages out on Twitter anonymously, which is why we're called Head Teacher Chat, to ask those questions. And what we discovered was mind-blowing. Firstly, we're not the only ones that needed to know those answers. And secondly, sadly, there was a lot of people out there completely on their own. And we thought that was really sad because Jonathan and I had each other. We could go home and go, you'll never guess what happened today, rah. And the other person would listen to it all and understand and help us each other. But some people are completely lonely. They don't have that family member to support them, or they don't have a colleague in the school that gets it and they can talk to. So we became a listening ear. And that's our journey to this point until about 5 years ago, when the social media platform was too much to manage. We couldn't manage that and do our leadership role. So we made a very difficult, heart-wrenching decision to leave the jobs that we loved. But we were excited about the community we'd built. And it was an honour to look after them, really. And so we made a brave leap and started Head Teacher Chat as a business. And that's how we are today.
Wow. I think a couple of bits to unpick there. Yeah.
No,
But it's wonderful. I think it's really interesting. I think education as a whole, whether you're insular in terms of within own schools, whether you're in actually a department, whether you are in schools that are in local areas, technically now seen as competing against each other, multi-academy trust trying to absorb students and all those kind of things. It does bring back to the age-old question of how do we share more? How do we break out the silo? And also, why do we keep reinventing the wheel when somebody very, very close, probably as thin as a wall away from us, has probably done exactly the same, and they're probably needing something I've got, and I've got something they've got. So I think you can see why it's taken off, because actually the staff body, the teachers within an organisation, are often in the hundreds, depending on the size, or at least the tens. Leadership is then narrowed down to a smaller number, and the leader of those schools or those multi-academy trusts is even fewer. So actually it does feel like an isolating role. So it's wonderful you've created that. I suppose people that are still in education and often and then quick to criticise those that step away, and I don't know whether sometimes that message comes across to them, and not within it, but often some do, and say, well, you left it, so you can't have been that good. But actually, what a wonderful feeling that now you're not just looking after little clusters of schools, Jonathan, and Lucy, you're not just looking after transforming one organisation. You can really dip in and start to transform a larger ecosystem of many, many schools. So maybe kind of walk us through that, like how many head teachers and head teacher chat, how many people are engaging, what kind of activities do you do, what kind of stuff do you bring together, and is there like a themed approach to it, or is it just come on and just tell us what your issues are, we'll all help each other? Or maybe is there some planning to the madness? Maybe.
Our community is led by the community. We totally respect and are led by what they need and when they need it, don't we?
Yeah.
And in terms of numbers,
Oh, okay. Ooh. Where do I start? So the Twitter one, the one that is the X, sorry, I call it Twitter.
yeah.
I'm very old school.
It will always be Twitter.
The good old days of proper Twitter.
Yeah.
I think that just got under 60,000 followers. And most of our school leaders, we do vet who's going in and things like that. And that stays the same. And we get quite a lot of people on there communicating with us. In some ways, that's why we're still there, because there is still that community there that needs support. And they're asking us questions all the time. So that's our main
Our oldest platform.
one. Our Facebook group, which is a closed group, has 11,000 followers. And we do a monthly insight into what they're talking about and everything. There's 9,985 who are actively engaged in the month of school leaders. And we check those as well, as much as we can.
And some weeks it's 10,000. So we've got nearly everybody in the group is active every single week, which is quite astonishing. And we have 860 posts or 816 posts, I can't remember which one, but over 800
every month.
Posts every single month. And with several answers underneath each one, sometimes 20 to 40. It's a very busy group and it's a privilege to run it. They are super people and very helpful and they look after each other most of the time. And looking after each other is exactly what we're all about. It's about who can we ask in our community to help solve a problem. There's a problem over here. Anybody got an idea what to do with it? And it's about bringing people together to come up with solutions that they can try without feeling like they are singled out as not knowing something or that they should know that because they're a head teacher or a leader.
And last August, we set up a circle community, our school leader one, really to be a safer place than Twitter and Facebook. So you don't get as many adverts. It's only school leaders in there. We checked every person that's in the school leader community. We've looked at a lot of school websites. We've done loads of phone calls. We've got about 1,000 people in there now that are engaging with us on that. And in there they get, we're trying to make it as simple as what you were saying earlier, Steve. It's, we put all the resources in there, all the templates of everything, so they can just go to one place to get those. We do all the updates from DFE, Ofsted. So last week we summarised the EEF teaching assistants thing. We put it in there so people don't have to read the whole document. They can just read the summary. They have all the updating information and loads of conversations as well. But it's a safe place for school leaders to have a chat. They don't have to be anonymised in there.
Yeah, it's professional space. Sorry. Yeah, go on.
No, I love it. I love the fact that we know that leadership can often be lonely. We've said this a few times. We also know that being a teacher can often be lonely because the things that created community for many of us, the staff room or the lunch break or the fact that we're all living in the same community, we might see each other in the shops, but now it feels very, very much a job that gets done and then you leave and people work extremely, extremely hard. And I know that a post was put on today about like the teaching hours and the normal, what it was normal for head teachers to work. And you talked about, Jonathan, didn't you? At times you were doing 7 a.m. till 9 p.m. On a regular basis. And
I used to travel an hour and a half to my school as well.
Yeah.
I used to be on the road at 5:30 in the morning, and yeah,
and it's the intensity, and I know that having both me and Steve being in that teaching space, neither of us have been head teachers, so I know it's a different level of pressure in that space. Both my parents are from a primary school background as well, so Dad was deputy head and Mum was deputy head as well, actually, in primary, and I saw that firsthand. And interestingly, the conversation the part that I loved just listening to you talking there was about how, even though it might feel lonely, there's a community that's developing that can say, yes, it is tough. It's not got any easier. It's probably getting hot, but at least you're not carrying the weight on your own. You're not carrying the pain and the challenge and the difficulty on your own. And I'm chair of governance at a primary school, and our head is relatively new to post, 18 months or so. And I know that he has talked about the support that he's got out of the head teacher chat space. And I know that he's also talked about what it means to have people that can, I need a template for this. Has anybody done this? Or we've got this Legionella. Like Legionella came up as a thing, and they were getting a support from somebody, in how to process that. I think it's powerful. And you talk about community. I know that we were learning from people like you of building this authentic community. Like, what does that look like? I know we've talked about some of that, but what does an authentic community look like for you guys at Head Teacher Chat?
Great question.
That's great. I mean, at the end of the day, we are school leaders. We see ourselves as school leaders, helping other school leaders. So we're trying to be as honest as possible, as real as possible, and giving people the space and the trust that they can trust us, that we can support them in their role.
Yeah,
as much we can do. Essentially,
and we're very clear on that. It's a very respectful environment where everybody is treated as individuals, and we all have our own challenges. And I know if you're listening to this, you'll probably be thinking, I find it really hard to explain what I'm going through because I feel like I'm on my own and nobody's been through this thing. Well, if you talk to us, if you talk to our community, there will be definitely somebody who's been through something similar, who may have a solution to a problem that you've been worrying about and losing sleep over for weeks and weeks and weeks and didn't dare ask. Because like going back to the question I asked earlier, who do you turn to? Sometimes you have no one to turn to. You can't go to your governors because you're thinking, well, then they'll think I can't do my job. You can't go to the teachers because then they'll think, well, you're the head teacher, you should know. It's like, who do you go to? So we are that middle person. We're that safe space, that professional space where they can come and say, do you know what? I have absolutely no idea what to do with this thing. Can you help me out? And that's where, our community kicks in. And going back to what we said earlier, the community is run by the community. What they ask for, they get. So when they say, I need help with blah, 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 we provide the blah, blah, blah. We provide that template that they're looking for. We provide the signpost to the company that they need to fix a problem in the school. We provide the answer to their question by facilitating a peer group discussion.
We've even got one head teacher who provides coaching within the platform, and you can just phone her up and she'll do a coaching session with you. We're working with someone to actually do some therapy work within the group, who was a school leader as well. So that's the aim, is that someone there most weeks that people can go and talk to. And if someone is in crisis, and we do get them on Facebook quite a lot, not quite a lot, but there are a few that are in deep crisis, and we will reach out to them and say, okay, can we help? What can we do to help you? Yeah. We signpost them to the right. We're not trained in that level, but we will signpost them to talk to the right people. Yeah. So
it's about, basically our mission is that nobody feels alone. That's it. One place to go to, you get all your stuff and you feel like you're supported. And that's what we started Head Teacher Chat to be. A simple place where you don't feel overwhelmed. We don't offer millions and millions and millions of resources. We offer the resources that you need. and we offer them when you need them. But behind that, there's this wonderful community, and our community is smashing. So if you're listening and you are part of it, thank you for what you do, because I see it. I see what you do to help others, and it's really,
Really special.
really special.
And we've been to a few schools and we've met community members at schools, and it just felt like a privilege to do that. We did a school visit up in Newcastle.
We're going to do more.
We're going to do a lot more. And we're going to Canberra, I think.
Yes.
So we're going to do a similar one. We've been talking to Jade about trying to get everyone at Canberra.
Yeah. Not an ad. Yet.
Not an ad.
Not yet. But but like it goes back to that kind of, the community is led by the community. And it's driven by what you guys need out there. So when you're wanting something, all you have to do is ask. And we work hard to make sure you get it as soon as we can. It's great.
And do you find maybe over the period of time that you've started 5 years ago or greater since you've been going, but also recently, do you find that because it's what they need led rather than what you think they need led, do you still find that there's actual trends and themes that occur where actually everybody, all of a sudden, one person and all of a sudden, oh yeah, we're going for exactly the same thing? Do you think that's government led? Do you think that's in regards to peaks and troughs of new heads coming into post and the evolution of deputy into head and all those kind of things? What do you think leads that those themes, or what are the major themes that are coming out that you could potentially share with us, that if there's a head teacher or head teachers listening to that part of it, then go, oh, they're the themes that I'm into that group then. What kind of things have been coming out recently over a period of time that you're constantly evolving?
I mean, the main theme is Ofsted. It's still a worry for head teachers. That's one of the biggest ones. Staff wellbeing comes up, loads of how to support staff, how to give them the space they need to do. It's also just the communication part. Okay, in the sense of I'm giving them all this, but they're still not quite understanding the wellbeing part and how we can improve it. So there's a lot of head teachers that ask that. I mean, this month has been a lot on directed time. How does that work? There have been big discussions on that.
Behaviour complaints.
And parent complaints.
Parents' complaints. How to look after children with additional needs that are, providing extra concerns and worries. And that's a massive issue and concern. Just general workload pressures, how on earth, and I know there'll be leaders listening, how on earth do I do it all? Where do I start? How do I manage that and to have a family? I mean, you wrote a blog about that.
I did, yeah.
Like, being a parent is really hard. But on top of that, being a leader is really hard. How do you combine the two? Does it even work? Is it possible? What are the, and we share a lot of productivity tips, and from 30 years in the job, we've learned great ways to save time and make things more efficient. And so we do a lot of talking about productivity tips, routines and habits, how to keep on top of your tasks without being overwhelmed. You'll know, some of you will know I make planners, so that's why I make planners, because I'm so passionate about it. When I was in the leadership role, before I became an acting head, I was in charge of English, early years, phonics, SEND, curriculum, assessment, parents and community. The list goes on. I had about 8 or 10 notebooks I would carry around every day to keep myself organised, with each one had a different thing that I was responsible for. And so I learnt the hard way how to juggle everything. And it was tough, I can tell. It was really tough.
Yeah, I can imagine. And I watch some of our staff at the primary school, and they're spinning full-time jobs and head teacher feeling like, oh, today I got a phone call saying, oh, sorry, year 4 teacher can't come in. She's not, I was in this morning, and he's like, yeah, year 4 teacher not coming in. Great. Well, we've rung all the supply agencies as non-available because, rightly so, a lot of people celebrate an Eid. So therefore, there's a lot of people that would normally be in that space can't come and cover it. And he's like, I've only got one option, haven't I? I was like,
got to come.
It's me.
okay, you know where I'm going. You're going to have to go and do it, or put classes together, and then it's the juggling thing. And I think what's lovely here is that it's very unlikely that a head teacher is going to find a situation that somebody else hasn't had to deal with, or something similar. And the fact that you've got somebody to call into that space, I think really works. One of the things that I really liked from doing some digging and some research around what you do is the 3 values, or 3 kind of ideas that you have, and we'll link these in the show notes. But you talk about connection, not isolation; curated, not cluttered; and empowerment, not exhaustion.
Yeah.
And I wonder if you could tell our listeners a little bit about why you went there in terms of, and it probably tied into a lot of what we talked about already. But I wondered if you could unpick those for us. It'd be lovely.
Well, I think really what it comes back to is we like things simple. We said it together.
Smashed it. Yeah.
Yeah. Unison.
Yeah. And sometimes the world is very. It's like, okay, for example, the DFE updates. They're hidden in a mist of many, many DFE documents. I mean, we tried to find the website updates for this year. What you need on your website. Someone asked us, we said, okay, we're going to find it.
And the policies.
What policies do you need on your website? And it was hidden in a maintained school governor's document in October, that what you need on the website. And they haven't
launched it, which is unusual, actually, because they are very clear.
Most of the time, it's fine.
But sometimes it's hard. And like when you've got enough to do, you don't want to be thinking, oh, I'll just check the DFE government website, make sure that I haven't missed any updates. You don't want to have that feeling every week that that's what you need to do. So that's kind of what we do. But yes, going back to Jonathan saying we like things simple, goes back to us saying, how efficient can we be to do these jobs? How productive can we be? We want to do, if we're gonna do something, we want to achieve it with the most positive impact that we can. So when we're looking at our resources are there because they're important, number one, but number two, they're impactful and they're efficient. So it's easy for you to use them. You only need to use those ones, and if there's one that's missing, we make it. And it has impact on the school, and it's Jonathan and I writing them all, and they're taken directly from the guidance or the statutory guidance that comes out, so you know it's very clear. And so yes, that's what we do.
Yeah, that's the cluttered one.
That's the cluttered one.
Yeah. What were the other ones again?
Connection, not isolation, and empowerment, not exhaustion.
Yeah. So empowerment is going back to that community-led vision. You know, we're all in this together. Goes back to what you guys just said a little while ago. There's somebody in the school next door who's done that thing. You know, why aren't we all working together? Sometimes there's too much separation between us.
We're in a competitive society.
I mean, look at me writing to Alison Peacock all those years ago. I was reaching out. I was in trouble. I needed help. My school was going into special measures and I didn't like it. I wanted somebody to help me out here. And Alison reached out with a little olive branch and said, it's okay. You come and do what we did. You know, it's all right. And that made a huge difference. But look at the impact it had on my school community and those children and those families. Just one conversation, one person reaching out made a huge difference. And so I think that's what's really important about connection, not isolation. You know, we're all doing the same job. We're just in different buildings with different people, but essentially it's the same job. So surely there's a better way of working where we all help each other. That was that one. What was the other?
It's isolation.
Yeah.
It's basically, I'm
same
saying
thing, yeah.
we don't want anyone to feel isolated.
No.
We want to support anyone that's out there. If you're finding it hard or you want some support, just come and get in contact. We even just have a cup of coffee over Zoom and just talk about whatever you want to talk about.
We're good at that.
We're very good at that.
Yeah.
Coffee, especially.
No, not this time of night, but yeah. Yeah.
And the other part was within the head teacher chat. I do a lot of reminiscence in Twitter of the good old days. I got one coming out about a BBC computer. Unfortunately, all these things I do remember being in my classroom. There's not one. I am. But it's sort of like the Jeff and Margaret. It's sort of like myself and Jeff and Margaret have loads of conversations about the good old days. And in some ways, I'm putting them there to remind us what they were, and actually, is there some things we can learn from the past as well as we can use in the future? Because it was a much better community in the past.
Yeah.
There was more connections going on. There wasn't as much competition going on. And in some ways, that's for the future.
People were braver and more able to ask questions, I feel.
And maybe two bits. I don't want to get too deep into it because I think probably could be here for a week. But from my parents and when you look back yesteryear, I'm on the wrong side of 40. But when people always talk about the power of community, and actually community as a thing in terms of your local community is actually dwindled. You've got people moving and transferring. You've got people working from home. I've heard it in a couple of conversations where actually the local community isn't as strong. The neighbourhood isn't as a thing as what it was. That actually used to take. And I think I was reading up. I'm a dad of 2 young children, and it links to parenthood. What I'm going to say, because ultimately, they often say a child is not raised by a parent or parents. It's raised by the community. That actually, whether that's family, whether that's your local area, whether that's your neighbours, that used to be a thing. Push that into leadership. It's just hundreds of children you're looking after rather than one. But actually, that feeling of community isn't there as much. I think society's become more competitive. That conflict is seen as always negative. And what I mean by conflict is not the negative, the thing that you see on the news. It's disagreements and people having different views is now not speaking to that person because they don't believe that. But actually, that was just the norm. That ultimately communities live together, and that's really interesting. But on the other side of it, like you've just said about the BBC computer, people are still tackling and juggling the challenges of technology and loads of new things coming. Are these new challenges, or are they just a little bit more difficult and just different language and different buttons? So actually, is that something we need to focus back on, that whole thing that you're driving, community over compete? So are we looking for a complete education system rather than a compete education system? Actually, we're not football teams trying to win the league. League tables are there, but really you take them out. Does that remove the competitive nature? And does it bring it back to a community feel, do we think? Is that one of the challenges, that we've been driven to competition rather than to compete rather than to complete?
I think we've got layers and layers and layers of complexities around that question. And yes, there is definitely competition.
The league tables and
the league tables were definitely a part of that by the very nature of what they are. And it's not just driven by the schools, it's driven by the parents, it's driven by the local community, it's driven by the estate agents, it's driven by the newspapers. There's a whole conversation around that, which there's rights and wrongs for, on both sides. But I think sometimes Jonathan and I, Often we don't, but sometimes we sit here and we go, well, this is the situation we're in. We've got to work with what we've got. And so going back to the whole idea of community versus technology, and I think we're both really passionate about this. You know, you see young parents out there, not all of them, obviously, but a handful of young parents out there, and they're not connecting with their children because they're on their phones. Or you see children out there not connecting with their friends because they're on their phones. And you just think, in a world where technology is moving so fast and improving so fast, what's the best way we can use that to enhance human connection and not take it away? And so that's why we're really passionate about bringing people together in a virtual space where they do feel that connection. They're not isolated and they have got that place to go to where they can celebrate success. It's not all about the challenges. It is all about, do you know what? I've had a great day today. We had hot chocolate Friday and we put out marshmallows and, you know, and the teachers really loved it or the kids really loved it. And, you know, there's lots of nice stories going on as well as the I don't know what to do stories. But it is about that connection, isn't it?
Yeah, I think we're still in that competitive. I would like to get to a way that we're not so competitive in our education system. I think it's causing that. It's competitive in different ways. The league tables, pupils, better school, so you get more pupils into the school because we're all under financial constraints. So you've got to do that. So you've got to make it,
And
market it well.
yeah.
Then you are in competition with local schools. But it's got to be that back to the day of getting together, talking together, sharing ideas, helping each other. We're all for the better good in the end of it.
Yeah.
We all want every child to succeed. So
it's a common purpose, isn't it?
The common purpose.
And we do voice our community's wishes. So, for example, when Ofsted asked us all about their new inspection framework, we wrote to Ofsted twice and they wrote back to us twice. So we put all of our community's thoughts into an email and we asked their opinions, you know, so that they felt that we had a collective voice, which we did. We all did have a collective voice, and Ofsted did respond. And we have asked Ofsted to come and chat with us as a community. So there's a lot that we do to kind of voice what we're saying, and you'll see a lot of our social posts do exactly that. It's asking for opinions, so that you can see the collective thoughts. And we do that deliberately to allow people an opportunity to share their ideas and concerns.
And I think that's really important, that it's not about a dictatorship of these are the rules, this is what you should do, this is the only way to do it. And that's what I'm hearing here is that we'll throw ideas out. That doesn't mean that every idea is equal. It doesn't mean that every idea should be taken forward. It's the fact that having a voice is the idea and the thing of itself. And then when the community want and put some value towards that, it's that ability for us to collectively come together and say, this is what we're looking for, this is what we need, this is a common solution. But that I've just written a piece actually that I'm putting out as my work with the Ideas Guys stuff about the wisdom of crowds, and actually this idea that there's a whole host of wisdom in crowds, and there are some challenges about when crowds should be trusted and when crowds shouldn't be trusted, because we see groupthink and we see mob culture and all the other things that go with it. But ultimately, we're better when we have a variety. We're better when we have a diversity. We're better when we hear from different voices rather than it just being one set of voices. And I think that's lovely that you've been able to have that relationship and conversation both at Ofsted, and I know that we've had similar conversations with awarding bodies and others who traditionally we may have been a little bit like up against, because we're saying we need to change this, and this, but being able to have the conversations and then hear that I suppose it becomes that like divergent thinking, the stuff that that rebel idea stuff that Matthew Said talks about, and ability to think differently and see that. And so obviously in that leadership challenges space that we've touched on there, is that looking about what you're seeing. And I'm wondering if you've got any examples that you can talk about at this point, of examples of teachers working together, or of leaders, head teachers working together to solve challenges, similar to what you did, Lucy, when you were talking about getting support from Alison, who we had the privilege of having a very brief chat to when we were down in London somewhere. Where was Steve? Where we were
the Habs Trust. The Habs Trust Professional Development Day.
Yeah, and that was wonderful. And so you reached out there and you saw some collaboration, you saw some people working together. Have you got any other examples of maybe I know you might not be able to tell everything about that from a confidentiality perspective, but any good examples of best practice there?
Loads of them. And Alison, if you're listening, poor Alison didn't know I was going to mention her name tonight. If you're listening, I'm so grateful for your support all those years ago. It's been life-changing for so many people, so thank you so much. But yes, recently, the most recent example, which was a good one that answers that question, was when we had our get-together in Newcastle.
Yeah.
And we had a challenge, which was, how on earth do you plan for mixed age classes? Like, where do you start? You know, every school is different. Help. Like, I've got mixed age classes. I've got a falling birth rate. Nationally, the birth rate is falling anyway. More and more schools are finding this becoming an issue. You know, how do you do this thing? And one of our community reached out and said, I know, I've just had an inspection. We completely scrapped our mixed age planning last year, and we started again. Do you want to come and have a look? And so we all went and had a look. And we brought all our plans with us. Everybody brought planning, and we sat round a table. I won't tell you how many cups of coffee we had, because it was quite a lot. And
Not just me.
Yeah, and we had a lunch together. It was really nice, and it was an honest chat. It was, you know, in my school we do this, and I feel that works, but this doesn't work. Like, what do you do in that situation? And it was that kind of really powerful day, and we had all those head teachers that came to meet us.
And it's interesting on that one. We're talking about that community part. We had one that travelled 10 miles, but it was in a completely different county or district.
Yeah.
So they never meet.
No.
And they're only 10 miles apart. And then we had someone who, we were in Newcastle, actually drove from Liverpool to Newcastle to come to this meeting. And it's just like, we've got to do more of that. We've got to get more connections with people and actually get them in the room and talking to each other and sharing ideas like that.
So we are going on a road show.
We are.
If you're listening and you'd like us to come to your school, we'd love to come to your school. If you've got something to celebrate, tell us about it, because we want to share that stuff. Let's all work together and show people something that's working well so that we can all learn from it. That's going to make big changes and help a lot of people. So please do get in touch.
And any cities that you're missing, just to call it out, is there any areas where you're thinking, oh, we've got quite a couple up in the north, but we'd like, or in London, we'd like more in the Midland? Any particular?
I would like to score in Cornwall.
Okay, right. Anybody listening from Cornwall? Lucy wants to go to Cornwall, preferably near the beach.
Yes.
Next
July time, where maybe September, where it's nice. Yeah, I get that. It's like Matt Jessup talked similar recently, saying, I'm looking about going up to the Scottish Highlands. Any schools up in the Scottish Highlands that want me to go up there? Like, oh yeah, that's a good idea.
So, I mean, we've been really, really pleasantly touched by the many schools that have actually reached out already. We've had lots of offers from schools to say, come and see us, we're really inclusive, we've got this going on, we've got that going on, we'd love you to come and see us, bring some people with you, we've got a big room for you to come and chat in. So if it's you, we are looking for more spaces. We want to do as many of these as we possibly can. Let's all work together to make it better. If you have a good space in your school and you can accommodate us, we say at least 10, but if you can get more, even better. then yes, please, we'd love to come and see you and celebrate what you're doing so well.
So you've heard, Edufuturist community. We need to keep Jonathan and Lucy so they never return home again over the next 12 months. So much so they get a camper van. So let's pack out that diary and let's get it going.
Now you're talking. Not like that.
So just as we obviously Ben's talked about some challenges and everything else, I'd be really interested in regards to, you've both been leaders. Jonathan, you've done that role in terms of diversity across multiple schools. I'd be interested in regards to often looking back and thinking what the challenges are and how they apply now, but also what your thoughts are and your vision is for potentially the future of leadership. What does that look like? Is it going back to connection, not isolation, curated, not club? And I'm not trying to lead you, but what is your thoughts on the vision? Is it? I'm not going to say is it. What is your thoughts, and what is your vision for leadership, or would you hope from it?
No one is on their own, and that everybody feels supported and they have the stuff, the information to do their job well. Leaders do an incredibly wonderful job. They work so hard. They're dedicated to their community. They need support. We should be holding them up on a pedestal and going, look at these amazing people. Look how much they've achieved. Look what they do for others. We should be supporting them. We should be giving them the stuff. They shouldn't have to be looking for stuff. They shouldn't have to feel like they've got no one to talk to. I feel that's my,
I think it's the same thing, isn't it? We talk to Sam Strickland quite a lot, and he says, until you've been in that chair, you don't understand that role.
No.
And there's so many decisions that they have to decide on that no one actually ever will see those decisions or what they did or how they had to do those. It's challenging and it's isolating, and you don't have many people to go and talk to in the school community. You meant to have the chair of governors, but that's
sometimes supportive and sometimes not.
That's just a hard relationship because they're also doing the accountability as well.
Yeah.
And so
rightly so. It's a difficult situation.
And it is 24/7. I did put that thing about that tweet about that's the job. Well, you know that's a job. Everyone goes into it knowing that's a job. You don't get the holidays, you don't get the brain space time, you're constantly working on what scenarios are going, what are the consequences of those, what your chats are going to be, and all of that. And I'm trying to think of, Stephen Tierney said it's just 24/7 that you're talking. It's constant of what you're doing. And no one understands that until you've done the role. I didn't understand it until I did the role.
But the future, I feel, technology is going to
It's
become
a game changer,
stronger and stronger. It's improving so rapidly. And my wish really for education leadership in the future is that we use technology in the right ways to build those connections and not to block them out.
I love that. Meaningful use of technology to support us rather than technology for technology's sake. Acknowledging that we've got obstacles that come our way, but there are solutions, and the solution is probably in the hive mind, and it may well be a technology solution. So let's look at how technology and the hive mind of a community can pull that together. So we're coming to land. You may well know from our podcast that we always finish with 3 quickfire questions, and we don't tell people, but if they've been listening over the last few weeks, they'll know that we use a theme. What I think we should do, Steve, is actually create 50 questions and then just do it randomly, and nobody knows what's coming. So if anybody does listen, they haven't got preparation anyway. But the three questions, I'll do the first one, Steve will do the second, then I'll round it up. So the first question is this. Say, the pressure's on. So the first question is, what's one outdated educational practice we need to abandon?
Only one.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I mean, I would say it's the one that always gets the biggest conversation in primary school, especially, is writing out the learning objective in books.
Yeah,
And I know it still goes on
yeah,
because I do the tweet, and I'm totally against writing the learning objective in books or what you're doing on things, but still schools are required to do it. And then I can go on to planning, presenting your planning every week. No point. No one really looks at it in too much detail. But there you are. One.
I agree with you on the learning objective, definitely, because there are children out there who could take a long time to copy that learning objective from the board, and they're not actually learning what the learning objective is asking them to do. So if the teacher can just say, today we're learning, and the children can hear that and take that on board, that's a much more effective way. Yeah, I think mine would probably be, and this might be slightly controversial, so maybe I should have given this more thought, but, bear with me, everybody. My initial reaction was reports. Teachers spend hours writing reports. If I was a parent now, what would I rather have? A bit of paper with something that a teacher had written 2 months ago about my child, but my child's actually moved on since they wrote it. Or would I rather have an extra 10 minutes where my teacher can show me how they're doing in class and show me what they can do better and how I can help at home? Wouldn't that be more beneficial for parents who actually don't know how to help their child? They get this report with all these recommendations on it, just overwhelms them.
I mean, here's another idea. I know of a school that does videos.
Yeah.
So the teacher does a video, it's a primary school, about every child.
Yeah.
And they send it to the parent. And it's more
ask the child.
honest, it's more, okay, this child did this fantastic piece of work, really doing well in reading and things like that, rather than the written report. But I remember I had the handwritten report. I mean, this is how bad it is. I had to handwrite every single report, and I always got one spelling wrong, and I got sent back that I had to rewrite the whole report.
Yeah. So that's mine would be the learning objective. I agree with you on that one, Jonathan. I think it's not helpful.
We've done 3.
Yeah. Carry on. Next question.
Next one then. I'll go in. How should we measure learning success beyond grades?
I think you can learn a lot from early years practice. So here's my reception teacher coming out. Okay, I was in reception for 14 years and I absolutely loved it. I learned more about how children learn in that time in reception than I ever did in my 30 years of teaching. And you can see a child learning in front of you by exploring and experimenting and describing and having a go and failing and practicing and talking things through. Early years, I think, is the way to go. And if I could have one wish for education in the future, it would be 2 actually. Personalised learning based on an early years approach.
I'm going to say.
He can't disagree with me.
I don't
love it.
Do you know what? We say that that's been said multiple times on this podcast, multiple times. So it's lovely to hear that, and I know that both me and Steve are very much in that player based. With a lot to learn from nurseries and reception. So I love that. Anyway, this is supposed to be Quickfire, Ben. Shut up. So the final question is: what one thing would you want our listeners to remember?
You're not on your own. Basically, you are not alone. There's always someone that can help. Never feel like you haven't got anyone to talk to. Come and talk to us. We don't charge. It's free. We are that friendly person you can talk to. We don't claim to be experts. We're just experienced. We can signpost you to the experts, but you are not on your own. Please do reach out.
Thing to wrap up on. It's been an absolute pleasure, Lucy and Jonathan. I think learnt so much, but ultimately the strong message that you leave us with is you are not on your own. connect either in your space, preferably everybody go there, but also with each other. You know, if you're local and you just want a cup of tea with somebody, there's always people out there. Connect, collaborate, communicate, break down the silos, and let's move it forward together. And I think we're better, you know, that whole thing of, if you want to go far, you go together. If you want to go fast, you go on your own, kind of whole thing. And I think that's what we're aiming for. We want to go far. We don't want to go fast. The world is fast-paced. It's noisy. It's messy. Let's keep it messy. Let's cut down the noise, and let's go far. So no, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks for sharing your insights. The links to how to join and how to connect with Lucy and Jonathan, the community, will be in the show notes. Don't forget, hopefully we'll have people like Lucy and Jonathan and many, many more at the Uprising in June in Manchester, 26th of June. Tickets are still available, hopefully, by the time this goes out. They are absolutely flying. I have never seen it before that we might have to have a waiting list and close it so early. But
And Steve, just on that, as of today, and obviously we're recording before this goes out. We're just over 6,000 votes in Edufuturist Awards so far, just over 6,000. Last year we did 11,000 in the whole of the voting period. There's still 3 weeks left. I think we're going to smash that number out of the water, right?
Absolutely. So yeah, please come together. Let's connect. Let's collaborate. Let's have fun when we're doing it. So Jonathan, Lucy, really a pleasure for you to join us. It's been a blast. So thank you.
Thank you.
You guys.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Bye-bye.
Yes.